How's it going, guys? So I'm currently in Sharm el Sheikh in Egypt, and you can probably tell behind me the scenery is absolutely amazing and it's baking hot. So today I've got something a little bit special. Today I'm going to be diving the SS Dunraven. There's two sort of main wrecks in the Red Sea. There's the Dunraven and the Thistlegorm. I already dived the Thistlegorm, so I'll leave a link to that in the description if you want to go check out that video. But today we're diving the Dunraven, so I'll tell you a little bit about the wreck, and you'll also see one or two dives we did either side of the wreck. So enjoy the video. My name's Adam and welcome to Nature's Scope. So the day was set out as follows. We set off into Ras Mohammed National Park. This is the national park on the Red Sea near Sharm el Sheikh that includes some of the desert as well as the amazing coral reefs. We did a dive before and a dive after the SS Dunraven. So the first dive we did was on Marsa Gazlani. I'm going to be showing the highlights from the dives either side of the wreck, but if you are just here to see the SS Dunraven footage, then I'll leave a timestamp on screen now so you can just skip straight to that. This dive was absolutely full of clownfish and various different coloured anemones. Clownfish are quite fun to dive with because if you get slightly too close to the anemone, as you can see now, the clownfish will defend its territory and come out towards you. We spotted this beautiful blue-spotted stingray hiding in the sand. The fish you can see on screen now are called glassfish, and they're really weird. They're almost translucent, you can just about see right through them, but you can also see their bone structure and a little bit of their insides. It's really odd. They move together as one, so whenever a fish comes close, they just dart around together as like one big unit. As always in the Red Sea, there's lots of different things lurking around. Inside this tiny little cave on a branch of coral sticking out, there was a lionfish waiting for something to pass so it could pounce and eat it. So I hope you enjoyed the highlights of the first dive we did at Ras Mohammed. The next dive is going to be the SS Dunraven, so I'm going to show you the dive and tell you a little bit about the history of the wreck. The SS Dunraven was originally launched in December of 1872 from its home port of Newcastle upon Tyne, here in England. The wreck eventually sank on the 22nd of April 1876. On the journey that the ship ended up wrecking on, it had left from Liverpool and was on its way to Bombay. The plan was to trade some steel and some timber from the UK for some spices and some cotton from Bombay. On the way towards the Suez Canal, they accidentally struck a reef, and that's what ended up causing the SS Dunraven to sink. There was a 25-man crew on board the SS Dunraven, and thankfully all of them made it out of this shipwreck. The shipwreck is now open, you can swim straight through it, but one thing to bear in mind is that the boat actually sank upside down when it eventually wrecked. As you'll see from the footage, the wreck is incredibly open, so this means there's lots of life on it. Even swimming through, I was getting really close to some angelfish, some surgeonfish, things that often on a reef you wouldn't actually be able to get that close to just because there's so much like open space on a reef dive. So it was really cool to be able to get up close and personal with some of these really cool marine animals. The wreck dive itself lasted probably around 7 or 8 minutes. It wasn't long at all. You then do the last sort of half hour, 40 minutes of the dive on a reef that's next to the wreck. I wish we could have gone around the wreck 1 or 2 more times maybe to properly take it in, but unfortunately, as you'll see later in the video, that wasn't possible. In terms of the actual wreck itself, this is a really good one for beginners. It's pretty wide open as you can see on screen now, so there's lots of places to breach and to exit, so if you're uncomfortable, you can get out really easy. So if you've never done a wreck dive before, this might be a good one to consider to be your first. Whilst you're diving around this wreck, try to remember this wreck is 150 years old, so it's not in the best condition. However, it's been there that long that coral and other plants have started growing on it, so that's pretty cool. There's loads of life on board, but the wreck itself is not in the best state. It's had 150 years of salt water slowly corroding it. I spotted this fish that was upside down towards the end of the wreck. I'm not sure if this fish was ill or perhaps about to die, but if anyone knows what was wrong with it, please let me know in the comments down below. It was then time to exit the wreck, and we exit through this small little hole at the back end of the ship. Once you come out the ship, if you look up to your left, you'll see some incredible views of the blue above you, but also of the boat's propeller, which is still comfortably attached to it. But the first thing I noticed when I left the wreck was that we were getting absolutely battered by the current. The current was incredibly strong on this one. We've got some really good views here of the propeller itself with a jackfish swimming on by. The outside of the wreck was really cool, and it's absolutely plastered in coral, so there's loads of fish swimming around it. I find it really cool that shipwrecks like this are able to provide a home and like a whole new habitat for other organisms. Over time they've sort of learnt to live with this ship there, and as you can see it's covered in coral, so this sort of little ecosystem will just benefit everything around it. So we finished off the dive on the reef next to the wreck, but the current was absolutely impossible to deal with. It was the strongest current I've ever felt whilst I've dived. It was the type of current where we were moving our fins, we were even using our arms when you're not really meant to during scuba diving, and we just were not really going anywhere. It was so hard and incredibly tiring. Overall though, the wreck was pretty cool. Compared to the Thistlegorm, it's nowhere near as good, so if you have the choice between the two, I'd probably recommend you do the Thistlegorm. Just to finish off, I'm going to show you the highlights from the third dive we did on the day from Ras Za'atar. This was another reef dive in the Ras Mohammed National Park, and the first thing we saw was this octopus. It was the only one we saw throughout our entire Red Sea trip, and it came out to greet us, and there's a clip in just a second where if you look really closely you'll be able to see the octopus come out of its hole and sort of walk up past the coral. If you keep an eye out dead centre of the screen, you should be able to see it burst out of its cave and slowly start making its way upwards. This was pretty cool. You don't have to see octopus sort of out and about walking. They usually stick in their cave where they're safe, especially if there's divers around, because they're incredibly smart and sort of know when to take cover. This angelfish was showing some quite strange behaviour. It was almost digging around in the sand. I don't know whether there was some food there. Perhaps it was scratching itself, maybe getting some parasites off its body. I have no idea, but it was a really weird behaviour that we only saw this once. I found these clams really cool. They were absolutely massive, and if you look closely you'll be able to see it slowly closing together the closer we get to it with the GoPro. It's really weird to see these things moving. And that concludes the day's diving. It was really cool to dive the SS Dunraven. It's a very unique dive, and obviously it's a 150-year-old wreck, so that's pretty cool in itself. If you have any questions about the wreck, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, leave us a like, it really helps us out. Comment down below the favourite wreck that you've scuba dived, or maybe a wreck that you really want to dive in the future, and subscribe to Naturescope to not miss any more future videos. We've got plenty more scuba diving coming throughout this year and next year. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.